Peace in Islam. Today we're going to talk about Islamism. We're going to talk about nobility. And of course we're going to go through the Circle 7, the Holy Quran, the Moor Science Temple of America. So basically we're going to be talking about being a Moor. Let me see. Nobility I, this man we see on this pen right here. He was born in 1886, North Carolina, North America. And he came and told the Moors in North America at that time that they are not Negroes, blacks, and colors, that they are Moors. Before 1886, we already had Moors, all that term in existence. But what he did, he came, reminded us, gave us everything we need to get back to where we've been before we fell into a state of dark age. So again, signing up, you can't sign up to be a Moor. You can't join nothing to be a Moor. You can't. It's just where you, either how you born, right? So no man can tell you. He can't change or make you into nothing. It's up to you to know who and what you are. So being, anybody can say anything out their mouth. You got a mouth, you can speak a language, you can say anything. So anybody can say, well, I'm a Moor, and it'll be true, right? But when he came and reminded everybody, it's changed the era of time and the act and the deed of these people. We call them Moorish Americans. So, being faithful to that, we decide to we adhere to it, we observe it, and we adhere to it. And I just saying all that because I see somebody tell somebody to stop calling yourself a Moor, just call yourself black. If you're gonna keep doing the same stuff you've been doing, where you been calling yourself black? You see what I'm saying? It's like you learn that who you really is from a man, Nobility I, but you ain't gonna honor the way he set off most to be now into the future. Like a Chinese person or any other nation of people. Chinese guy decide to go around the village raping little children or whatever, the most heinous crime you could think of. That don't stop him from being a Chinese. He's just a Chinese rapist. But we're talking about national stigmas, and under the national stigma, I can feel when he been telling him just be black. It's like Nobility I say, take your fez off when you in the alley. He been metaphysically telling us, keep in mind of your national reputation when you're doing things as a nation. Because there ain't no man perfect, you know what I'm saying? So what we should observe would be out in the public how we represent ourselves. Under the black status, ain't no rules, ain't no principles, and the national stigma is already inferior and low. So basically, that Moor can't really tell him he can't be a Moor no more. You gotta be black. He can't do that because you gotta have the power of God. They gotta change his parents to change his descent nature. But I also get what you're saying by why misrepresent yourself. If you claim to be a Moor, why you acting like that? You see. So in this video, in this series, really about primarily 3 parts, I'm gonna show you what Noble y'all even trying to set out Moors to be. Because you can go back before the time again, and you got good guys, you got bad guys, you got good Moors, you got bad Moors, you got mad scientists, you got the same things you got now in every nation. You got different types of people. Right, even setting the Moors back on the right path of the good ancestors, the nobles, the borders of civilization. So that's what we're gonna talk about in this video. Let's go. And again, this means Moorish, the Moorish flag over there in America, Moorish American. And I got 2 things I want to say before we continue. This from the last video, the last series we did. And I've been talking about this, and I can find it. I find it right here. See right here, the product report of Ciencias das Almazones. So we see again an example of how they play these games. They take Almaricanos, take out the L, attach it, and change up a little bit of the language, and we get America. That's our wrong play. And there are plenty of words like this. That's another one. This became, they take out the L, change that C, which got the S sound, to a Z. And we get Amazons. It's South America. It was Masones. So you're right, they've been speaking Arabic before some damn Spanish, which is Moorish Latin. And it's also say the Masons. They show you right there the mound boulders, the boulders in America. So you see the Masons. And you see from the Mason-Dixie line all the way down to the Amazon, these Moors been building the Amazones. So this is an example of pre-Noble Drawley in America, Muli Saddam, which coincide with our Circle 7. He going back over 10,000 years in the Circle 7. But that record, that land title of the Americas and Morocco, Tunis, Algiers, and Algiers, Tunis, Morocco, and Fez, those kingdoms over there, and the entire Americas as a land title. This right here is an example of Moors throughout time still sitting in that seat that he been talking about, in that empire that he been talking about in chapter 48. So throughout time, Moors in America, just like that sea. Yeah, I know that. The 1600s, Moody Sidham on the throne in America, ruling the whole continent. That's what's Quran that I trying to get from Excario Library. See if they get me a copy of I was saying Moody Sidham. Moody Zidane. Moorish American, noble, and our ancestor. So let's talk about their ways. The master took down from the wall a scroll on which was written down the number and the name of every attribute and the character. So you see, attributes and character. So we got, every time you read a circle 7, keep a Wiktionary open, or any etymological dictionary, or any dictionary, but I like Wiktionary. So you always, even if you know the word, still do it. It'll be a whole different read. Let's do attributes. From attributus. And I like to look at the original. Even though the Circle 7 reads in English, it's pure English, what I call it, Moorish true English. And it's really just Latin, but giving it to you in English that you may be able to read it. Associated, added, annexed, assigned, allotted, appointed. We're looking for the adjective. Let's see what English say. So English, they give you the right thing, a characteristic or quality of a thing. He said, the circle is the symbol of the perfect man, and 7 is the number of the perfect man. The logos is the perfect word, that which creates, that which destroys, and that which saves. This Hebrew master is the logos of Allah. The circle of the human race, the 7 of time, and in the record book the scribe wrote down the logos circle 7, and this was Jesus known. So basically, all they're doing is telling you the difference between a Moor in his right mind and a Moor in his dark state, black. A noble and the peasant or the slave. The noble got his characteristics, his attributes, in a circle which can't be broken from outside spirits. These are metaphors, but we're going to continue and explain more as we go on. Right here we see a king's list, right? You see the king's list. And you see they got the prophet at the top, right? Prophet Isa at the top. And that's what Noble even trying to give us the same type of understanding of divine right, a rule. So divine right, a rule, they come in with this science, right? We just finished reading the logo, Circle 7. So the Circle 7 in America. At the top of the throne as the figurehead, right? So these is what I call archetypes for the time period that, since we have circle times, right? At the beginning of every circle, we get an archetype of how a man should be. It's a stair-step evolution type thing. And in our times, the logo is Noble Drawley for us Moorish Americans. So here we see divine right of kings. In European Christianity, divine right of kings, divine right or God mandation is a political and religious. So we got divine and national doctrine of political legitimacy of a monarchy. And that's what the Moorish Americans is, because we come from rulers of an empire. So we are our ancestors. It stems from a specific metaphysical framework in which a monarch is before birth, preordained to inherit the crown. And that's why Nobility I disavow the 14th Amendment, because it stripped you of your preordained before birth rights and started you as born in the United States, right? As they use those terms. Those born in the United States are subject thereof. So they taking away your inheritance with that one act. According to this theory of political legitimacy, the subject of a crown have actively, and not merely passively, turned over the metaphysical selection of the king's soul, which will inhabit the body and rule them, to God. In this way, the divine right originated as a metaphysical act of humility and a submission towards God, right? Abdallah. That's what you see many Moors named Abdallah, that means submission toward God, divine right. Right? A lot of things we don't understand because we don't understand the origin of these words. The imperial code of ancient Rome identified Roman emperors and some members of their family with the divinely sanctioned authority, auctoritas, of the Roman state. And it's like Moorish High temples and subordinate temples, the same thing. The officials offer of cultus to a living emperor, acknowledge his office and rule as divinely approved and constitutional. And at the end of this series, we're going to get into Republican and Democrat principles. His principate should therefore demonstrate pious respect for traditional Republican deities and morals. Many of the rights, we're going to get into rights, practices, and status distinctions that characterize the cult to emperors was perpetuated in the theology and politics. You see Louis the 14th of France depicted as a sun god, right? You see. Same thing we see in these American paintings and stuff. Got the plumes and everything, and a little sun crown. Same thing, sun coat right here too. That's why I got church on Sunday, the day of the sun. You got a mixture of true Christianity and a mixture of the bullshit Rome put in it. So, Nobility I came and said everything's clear for us. We don't gotta be confused and play, because when you're confused and you're ignorant in the dark, that's when you're gonna be easily played by others. And we see right here, I got a royal, using the royal gesture, right? Forms, rights. We'll look into all that today. And surrounded by his attributes. Again, attributes, right? Possibly representing a shock of the Mauryan Empire. Chola, another ruler, will be addressed as Chakravarti. See, everything divine and national. So that's what he bring us back. This ancient understanding. In Buddhism, a Chakravarti is the secular counterpart of a Buddha. The term implies the divine and national. Let me see. Let me make sure. For the sake, really, of the age. Not specifically religious, lay, or civil, as opposed to clerical, temporal, or worldly, yeah, divine and national. The term applies to temporal as well as spiritual kingship and leadership, particularly in Buddhism and Jainism, In Hinduism, a Chakravarti is a powerful ruler whose domain extends to the entire earth. You see, Moors always had those understandings. And both religions, the Chakravarti is supposed to uphold Dharma, indeed being he who turns the wheel of Dharma. And that's interesting because we just see a wheel. Oh yeah, that's the same customs. And the Indian concept of Chakravarti later evolved to the concept of Devaraja, the divine right of kings. See, again, all over the empire. A caliphate or khalifa is an institution or public office governing a territory under Islamic rule. The person who holds the office carries the title of caliph and is considered a political, religious, divine, and national successor to the Islamic Prophet Muhammad. And that's what Nobility put us in this empire. Again, the same one as Mooley said him in America as the emperor. So he ain't not foreign. And a leader to the entire Muslim world, Ummah. Historically, the caliphates were political based on Islam that developed into multi-ethnic transnational empires. Of course, in America. Before the advent of Islam, Arabian monarchs traditionally used the title Malik, which is the ancient Canaanite, Phoenician, Afro-Asiatic, or another of the same root. The term Caliph derived from the Arabic word Khalifa, which means successor, steward, or deputy, and has traditionally been considered a shortening of Khalifa Rasulullah. However, studies of pre-Islamic texts suggest that the original meaning of the phrase was successor selected by God, divine, and national. So let's get to some of the rights and why we deal with the rights, right? And Nobility oral statements, number 142, Sister A. Brown L. said, the Holy Prophet said, Moors, look your best. So a man of few words, but metaphysical at the same time. I can show you why he tell us that. Everything he say for a metaphysical and physical reason. And man, had no extra words out in his records that ain't mean something. And that's hard to do. I know I got a whole lot of records they'll be pulling up on me saying nonsense. Like it's hard for I find a man if I all the words he put in the public forums. Well, it ain't probably ain't that hard from back then because they ain't had no social media and that fast, rapid recording, publishing words. But everything you see, that shit got a metaphysical meaning. So we see we go back. The more we delve into the black state, the worse we get. But if you go backwards, you'll see the nobility, the science, the rights, the practices, the attributes, the character, all is there. The further we go into the modern times until now, to the present, the more we losing that. Even from the time for me being younger until growing up to now, I can see stuff that we used to do that we don't do. And those rights. Calendars, holidays, we should have all those things ourselves. Brotherhoods and sisterhoods shouldn't be given us by Rome as so-called capital and stuff like that. We should have those things ourselves because that's what we're talking about now. More science. So you see, they look their best clean because they got better pictures like this. And pay attention. Our cleanliness is next to godliness, right? But as those countries became less and less Islamic, and Islamic just means peaceful, or under this way that the Moors had in order to build civilization, you have to have these ways. I'm telling you, you ain't gonna build no civilization otherwise. So the otherwise is Rome coming in. So you see Islamic and more democratic. The most intelligent will no longer lead, and whoever is more popular will lead. We see that now with false idols like the doctor and the scientists and the agriculturists and all these people and celebrities to our children. It's the people who being celebrities and stars, entertainers, and the politicians ain't the intelligent people. A bunch of idiots. So we're seeing this going on. And the desolation, meltdown of that nation has begun. Which for us began around the early 1790s. That's when that free fall started happening. Especially as wisdom and science are not very popular these days. Thus is separated into three separate categories. The duty of the family, Holy Quran, chapter 20 to 24. So I'm about to show you the Holy Quran way he trying to give us. Divine and national, right? And again, for the Moorish Americans out there, people who is watching this in there at the beginning stages of this knowledge, the Holy Quran Circle 7 is like the Bible or the Quran of Mecca. Is a holy book. And again, like I said about circle times, and these times, in this era of time, and for these people in North America, this should be in every household, this book. And this should be the way you put your faith in. They can show you why. Because all this other shit confusing the hell out of us as a whole nation. A national body. Our body is a sick old man. Our national body. And that's what he mean by he give you everything. You take to save a nation, I'll go save yourselves. And you hold up this book. Because this book is the duty of the family. Simple, right? The family. The fruitful and be fruitful and multiply, the duty of the nation. So your family, then the nation. So you get both of those understandings of what these things is for us and how to deal with it. Replenish the earth and subdue it, and the duty of progressive civilization. Holy Quran chapter 30 to 34. Have dominion over all life. So, and that's the covenant of God. Be fruitful and multiply. Replenish the earth and subdue it. And have dominion over all life. And that's how all major religions try to do. Because they try to have to say they fall in the covenant of God. We got the same covenant, but we're doing it under the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. We pick up the mantle, right? The scepter. This was the scepter of Judah from the bloodline of Abraham until the Israelites finally forfeited them completely in their betrayal of Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him. Then the scepter passed from Israel to Ishmael through Prophet Muhammad, Puba, who also followed Milatu Ibrahim. The ritual and rites and practices, back to that again, of Abraham. So again, our kings, our nobles know this, and they're dealing with this. Mila produced the word Mila in Hebrew and Milatu in Arabic. The Milatu Ibrahim, it doesn't literally mean religion of Abraham, it means the fulfillment of Abraham. Mila meaning to fulfill, perform, consecrate, accomplish. What Abraham performed, faithful works, also called rites, practice and order. So everything we seeing in religion and all that is from this. But there's also how noble families, both families, the same thing up here. Start with the family and then the nation, and then we build a civilization. So it's showing you don't look at religion, all that stuff as spooky. Find out the origins of things. Don't be spooked away from nothing because you heard of it, but you don't really know what it is. So you going around distance up and you don't know. So these some of the things that every household, or most Americans, we should have basic understandings of, at least an elementary version of these for your children, these subjects, each of them. Whoever one they gravitate towards, they're going to add more to, and they're going to become experts in that subject matter. But plenty more, but these just some of the ones. Prophecy, anthropology, geography, chronology, etymology, and language is very important. Language is very important. Religion, genetics, medicine, herbology, astrology, marriage, food and vesture, customs, occult science, natural law, international law, natural and treaty law, the law of nations, economics and commerce. And again, we getting our Moorish understanding of these things. Going back to our ancestors, because all these things are old concepts, not new. And we just create a small library for the children can understand these things. Basic understanding of all these things. It's what they need. Genealogy, ancient epigraphy, biology, chemistry, and more. And a lot of this already been taught to the Moors through Ma'at, which is the ancient Islamism, and the religion that we talking about. A man wouldn't tell us to go back to the ways of our ancient foremothers and forefathers and teach us something new. Like he gonna tell us things, he gonna do it himself. So that's why we know that Islamism, and we study and look and see. It's just my in a modern way. So we got my to be just, to be true, to be real, to be true. True and real. Murat, Murat, Mayat, and that's where Maya come from too. Part of the same empire. So we say, be more, just don't call yourself that because you heard it on YouTube from somebody. You right, you know the name, you know the word. Now it's time to be it. And it's simple. They just gonna take your willingness to want to live this way. Truth. That's the first one. You gotta always seek to try to embrace the truth or try to understand something, the truth about something, and speak truth at all times. That means you will always be speaking the truth. But if your heart and you speak it and you believe you speaking that bitch, that's all right. If you can take correction because you only looking for the truth. Right action, righteousness, virtue, blamelessness, very important one. You don't see kings, you don't see nobles in these stories, in these books and shit. You don't see them Moors back in the day. You don't see them blaming nobody for nothing. Always about themselves or what they doing wrong when something go wrong. That's a very powerful one to understand. I'll keep and observe. I say observe these things because ain't no man perfect. To this day, I do my best trying to live innocence, justice, fairness, right order in the state of the cosmos. Isfet or Asafat, Yasafat is the opposite of Mayat. And he breeds falsehood, lies, wrong, sin, wickedness, injustice, and wrong. That's the sound one. Disorder or chaos in the state of cosmos, and cleanliness. So cleanliness is Mayat. So you see, say Moors look your best. Because he understood these Mayat principles and gave it back to us in English so we may understand it. So Islam related to safety, security, peace, submission, and surrender. And we're going to show you how a lot of these things is your security and your peace, metaphysically and physically. Right? Because if you know better, you do better. Those type of things like that is true. Knowledge is power. And that's where your security lies. You know how to deal with things better. And also where your safety lies. You don't see when you clean and you honest and you got good manners, you don't see people disrespecting those type of people. The so-called hardest gangster dog or whatever you want to call person gonna respect those type of people. You see blamelessness again in Islam, right? To be free. This book on etiquette and manners is a contemporary version of the ancient literary genre known as specula principum, mirrors for princes. That is, books for, by, or about rulers and their vocation. Let's see. Let's do that again. No matter which word it is, get a better understanding of it. If you don't use these terms in your daily, which we don't get out of that a lot, then we need to do these when we're reading it. An inclination to undertake a certain kind of work. The monarchs of old needed guidance in order to rule with grace and with the people's best interests at heart. And that's what the circle 7 is for us. Guidance in order to rule with grace. Those who were born to rule had to smooth their rough edges, put the circle around their character, and to exercise temperance in all things in order not to be reduced to brute and tyrant. Negroes, blacks, and coloreds. And so arose a whole genre of royal self-help books, which example both good and bad for the ruler to reflect upon. And that's what we do. Through the history, we go back and we study our ancestors' ways and pluck out the good and discard the bad. And that's what Noble Ali did. He telling you Moorish Americans, but he putting you on the right path. We have brutes and tyrants. He ain't gonna give you that because we don't need. That's how we end up in the state we in now. Why would he give you that? You shouldn't even be reflecting upon those things unless you're ready to discard it. Some of the better known European moral princes include Niccolo Machiavelli, Il Principe, the Prince, Erasmus of Rotterdam's Institutio Principis Christiani, Education of a Christian Prince. All these good books to get to on the subject. And the Basilicon Doron, Royal Gift. And it's from a book, Act Like a Prince. Inter folia fructus est. Between the leaves is the fruit. And that's a good statement. Between the leaves is the fruit. That means the outer and the inside of a noble makes him noble. Not just the outer show, you end up being again false idols, false gods who can't help nobody because his mind ain't right or her. They could be in a match in the Rolls Royce. Means nothing when it comes to nobility because it's inside and outside. The wisdom lies within the pages. So we see these type of things we got still going on. If you see one in your area, sign up your child. They teaching them rites and ritual. See, back then, everybody been clean as hell, looking their best, at least when they taking pictures, because they're dealing with the public. And the public, you're dealing with reputation, national reputation. You're thinking for all your people, now and in the future, because these being recorded for, like right now, we in the future looking at his picture. So he know that young Moors would have been seeing him, so he gonna look his best on this picture. Those type of things we gotta keep in mind. You see her, she training her to meet Queen Elizabeth, I think, another European monarch. But she teaching her ritual form, which is formality, or formula, or family, or farm. Again, looking their best. And you see, pay attention, they putting their hands a certain way and everything that's right and ritual. Even a fan represent nobility, noble. Madam C.J. Walker, she definitely been on it. Come to this, and you see it, how they leg, all their legs, the same, everything ritual. We just gradually start losing these moral signs in the United States. From again 1790 on down. My man came and gave us a guide, because it's just like an animal. Like they said before, an animal go extinct, a rodent gonna be born with spikes to make sure they sustain that nation of people of our animals. They're going to evolve with the spikes to protect yourself. It's the same way with humans. Before a group of people, and especially a Moorish group, before they destroy themselves, they're going to get sent a prophet or a messenger to get put back on the right path. Gotta keep these things in mind. We always gotta be who we is and not who they saying we is, black people. Whatever, all those stupid terms like that don't got neither connected to it. So we losing it. It's been passed down to us by our parents, regardless of what they've been calling themselves for a long time. It's just a gradually downfall. And I can see it getting more and more gradual, generation by generation. I mean, look at us today. What do you see? America's black elite. Stafford, Birmingham, no. They got the eliteness in some of them. But they under the black spell. They're gonna lose it eventually. See Charles T. Walker. See Charles T. Walker, even the way he holding that book and taking his picture. He's a noble. Knowledge. At a very young age, these nobles take pride in teaching their children at a very young age sciences. So one of the things that separate Charles T. Walker again, after he come back from the Holy Land, Jerusalem, with that phase on, he not learning, probably going to the Moor section out there. Learn more about him. Let me see. The Black Spurgeon. Hidden hand, hand behind the back, all that got sciences to it. Don't let it spook your way. Go learn what it is. Most likely just nobles, but these forms that you want to read about. Some more nobility. Clean as hell. And what make them special ain't because of earthly wealth. They already know they've been abundant because they had abundance. Wealth was abundance. They had abundance of love in their family. They had abundance of everything the earth gives them. Allah plant and give us. They had abundance of knowledge, and that's what made them wealthy. Wealth just means abundance. Again, other school etiquette schools. Yeah, a lot of these across. Some people like me, they understand that we need these again. Even stuff like putting the fork and the spoon on again taught on the right side and all that. You see how they got their hands? All that being taught. Back to the Moors. We see in Asia, rites, ritual. They can't go in the royal palace if their ass don't have that shit right. Nobles. Always look your best. And all these Moorish Americans too. Got some books on it. Again, gradually, a lot of these people and their children are just running around like a muck right now. And what we tell you, you are the children of nobles and royalty. On the floor, ain't even a lint on the floor. Back then, we had our own brotherhood and sisterhoods, and we had control of our own lodges, which ain't not but temples. Romance, we're losing romance because of ignorance. We're losing out on gentlemen and women again. There's a lot of sciences that we taken for granted, and it's showing up in our national body, and we embarrassing ourselves. But again, we nobility, and the farther you go back, you will see it more and more. And the more you come back to our time, you see it less and less. That's how men bow, that's how women bow, and more science. Since ancient times, I ain't got no example of that in here, but I done seen it plenty times, different places. I like pictures like this. They call these art pictures when they dressing like these, just for the picture. But we need to always dress our own ways too. Need to get back to that too. John Moore, clean and fly. Oh, he been always suited and booted. Again, being a Moor, always look your best. Telling you that's for a good reason. Cleanliness is next to godliness. You can see that fan again, right? When you go to Africa, we see same thing. Everybody clean, ritual rites, practices. That's your security, your ways. And with that circle around y'all, ain't nobody can change that. There's some more books. You see black, that black drop in your class. People who write these books, they got an understanding of that's who they is, but they basing it off how other people looking at them, basing it off false wealth, because you got a lot of United States notes. That doesn't mean nothing to a noble Moor. He know if he talking about money and got a lot of it, that shit could be in the chest. It could be a bunch of silver and gold coins or some shit with his own face on it if he talking about being wealthy. Or again, he talking about he got abundance of fruits, he got abundance of love, he got abundance of anything. We understand wealth is. Unless you're dealing with a false sense of wealth, dealing with just earthly things and outward show. How to be a modern gentleman with manners, style, and body confidence. So you got brothers teaching it. In human society, family is a group of people related either by consanguinity, recognized birth, or affinity, marriage, and other relationships. The purpose of family is to maintain the well-being of its members and of society. So you see, security. Ideally, families would offer predictability, structure, and safety as members mature and participate in the community. In most society, it is within families that children acquire socialization for life outside the family and act as a primary source of attachment, nurturing, and socialization for humans. Additionally, as a basic unit for meeting the basic need of its member, it provides a sense of boundaries for performing tasks in a safe environment. Ideally, builds a person into a functional adult, transmits culture, and ensures continuity of humankind with precedents of knowledge. So we're dealing with the same things. We're dealing with being a functional adult, transmitting culture. That's what we're doing. And the precedents of knowledge. That's the job of families now. In the southwest United States, the Apache tribe practices a form of this, where the uncle is responsible for teaching the children social values and proper behavior, while inheritance and ancestry is reckoned through the mother's family alone. Modern day influences have somewhat but not completely erased this tradition. And they're talking about black and white people who ain't got no traditions no more because they dealing with colors. They ain't got no real historically of being a people, so it can't be a family. So, and Moorish American science and Holy Faith, the father is responsible for teaching. We'll get into that later. I don't get ahead of myself. The Chamorro, they're showing you how even in America they still have the same practices. The Chamorros of the Mariana Islands and the Taino of Turks and Caicos Islands are examples of societies that have practiced Anukuloko residence, uncles with titles and jobs. In our families, we all got titles and jobs. That's how it should be. That's why Rome break up our families. All kind of stuff, stupid shit like putting. I know how true it is, but I see somebody talking about birth control and water supply, dumb shit like that. But that shit makes sense because I swear everybody used to have like 10 children. Everybody used to have 10 children. You don't see that no more. One woman and one man having 10 and 12 and 13, 14 children. And nowadays, shit, one or two you don't see. The field of genealogy aims to trace family lineage through history. The family is also an important economic unit study in family economics. So you got broken family, your national economics gonna be broken, your national politics gonna be broken. The word families can be used metaphorically to create more inclusive categories such as community, nationhood, and global village. See a detailed glass medallion with a portrait of a family in Rome and Egypt, Alexandria. Familia, Gabriela family, historically a household or religious community under one head, regarded as a unit. And that's what it's saying, is that unit. And you see, in Roman law, the pater familias, his legitimate descendant and their wives are persons adopted into his family, and their wives, and all slaves belonging to the household. So that's why you see people saying, don't use family, that means slave. They don't know the whole thing. It means everybody in the family and the slaves that belong to the family. But basically just a household in English. But they get the Latin version, which means the servants in the household, domestics collectively, from famulus, servant, famula, female servant. Famul is obscure origins. So if they don't know what that is, they can click on that and go right there because they got a Wiktionary, Wiktionarian. I got an account. But that just means a formula. Familiar, people who familiar with one another. And the servant, the term they use in Latin is Old Latin, and means servant like we mean today. Like we see someone who give their allegiance to the rest of the people in that household. They serve in that house, that family. Let's look at some. The former emperor and empress with their family in 2013. So they modern nobles, and it's just because they know who they is. You see, they saying they look like probably looking at a family tree, because family is very important in nobles, very important. That's why I'm making these videos. And look at how they didn't even know how to sit and everything. Form. You see her hand? Her hand probably the same way, yep. So you see, family is very important to nobles. Always remember that. Always try to gather your family and get back the rites and rituals with them. Members of the imperial family showed themselves to the general public during celebrations for the new emperor enthronement. As Moors, you got the blood of nobles. You just ain't being that. Being something that you are not. So we're gonna begin the lessons for this video, and then afterwards we're gonna end it and continue in the next one with the same subject, nobility. This is Islamism. We're going into the Holy Quran, Circle 7. We're going to show you what he be giving us. So, dear mothers, teach these lessons to your little ones, that they may learn to love instead of hate. Dear fathers, by these lessons you can set your house in order, and your children will learn to love instead of hate. So he gives us two mandates. Mothers and fathers got a mandate to teach these lessons to your little ones so that they may learn to love instead of hate. And fathers, you may use it to set your house in order. The industrious acts of the Muslims of the Northwest and Southwest Africa, which is the entire American continent. These are the Moabites, Hammatites, Canaanites, who were driven out of the land of Canaan by Joshua and received permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. In later years, they formed themselves kingdoms. These kingdoms are called today Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli. And these same people, again, they were from America, got permission to set up Morocco, Algiers, Tunis, and Tripoli as we know it in our popular history, North Africa. But these are the industrious Muslims of America, right? So we see, to receive permission from the pharaohs of Egypt to settle in that portion of Egypt. So they come from another portion of Egypt, which was America. So let's put this in it because that's where you base your bloodline off your divine right of rule, your divine right of kings, your nobility off your ancestors, which is in this. So let's begin. Chapter 20, Holy Instructions and Warnings for all young men. Beware, young man. Beware of all the allurements of wantonness. So let's start right there. That's how you read the Circle 7. Because I don't read this book more than any other book I ever read. obviously it's our holy text. But a very much better read of, you got a dictionary with you. Licentious, sportive, and playful, uneducated, unrestrained. So you see, they read differently. And beware of all the allurements of wantonness. So you see, we us captivated by what? Sports, playfulness, entertainment, and the likes. Stuff that ain't dealing with education, right? We glorify it. Say, and let not the harlot tempt thee to excess in her delights. And that's like Morpheus telling Neo about the woman in the red dress. Say, the madness of desire shall defeat its own pursuits. From the blindness of its rage, thou shalt rush upon destruction. Therefore give up not thy heart to sweet enticements, neither suffer thy soul to be enslaved by her enchanting delusions. And even though he say her enchanting delusions, he talking about all enchanting delusions of the world. You can see throughout this text he used he, she a lot, even if he's talking about spirits, not actual humans. Talking about ideas. The fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. And the prime of thy life, old age, shall overtake thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. But when virtue, modesty, enlighten her charms, qualities like virtue, he'll say she. He'll call it he would give it a gender. According with moral principles, in accordance with moral principles, conformity of behavior are thought with the strictures of morality, of good moral conduct. So you say about weighing virtue and modesty enlighten her charms. The luster of a beautiful woman is brighter than the stars of heaven, and the influence of her power, it is in vain to resist. So he's basically telling the young man how to pick a woman. Basically, he just give you the stuff that the dating gurus charge you hundreds of thousands to give you. And again, it's like I go into the dictionary. You can do that with many more of these terms because he giving it to you in Old English, so it can last longer. But when we go to the dictionary, we getting more modern day understanding of these terms. The second one goes to a particular manifestation of moral excellence in a person, an admirable quality of a person. So when she got these things and she got the beauty, then that's brighter than the stars of heaven. And its influence of her power is a vain to even try to resist her. But learn how to resist enchanting delusions. Why? Because the fountain of health, which must supply the stream of pleasure, shall quickly be dried up. Right? That beauty that she enchanted you with, it's an illusion. Because it will get dried up with health. And age, and every spring of joy shall be exhausted. In the prime of thy life, old age shall overtake thee. The sun shall decline in the morning of thy days. So look for more than those enchanting delusions. The whiteness, again, whiteness means, say you write it in true English. And in this case, we're talking about honorable, fair, and decent. Fortunate, happy, favorable. The whiteness of her bosom transcendeth the lily. Her smile is more delicious than a garden of roses. The innocence of her eyes is like that of a turtle. Simplicity and truth dwell in her heart. The kiss of her mouth are sweeter than honey. The perfumes of Arabia breathe from her lips. Shut not thy bosom to the tenderness of love. The purity of his flame shall ennoble thy heart and soften it to receive the fairest impressions. Chapter 21, Marriage Instruction for Man and Wife, from the Noble Prophet. Give ear, fair daughter of love, to the instruction of prudence. Another word. I'm going to do this less and less so it wouldn't be too long. I just give you an example of how I read it. Even after I look at it a couple of times, still do it like this. The quality of a state of being prudent, wisdom, in the way of caution and provision, discretion, carefulness, frugality, and economy. And let the precepts of truth sink deep in thy heart. So shall the charms of thy mind add luster to the elegance of thy form. So I already explained that. Learn how to enhance your inner beauty to mix with that outer beauty, O daughter of love. And thy beauty, like the rose it resembles, shall retain its sweetness when it blooms. It's withered. When its bloom is withered. So old age ain't gonna really affect you like that. In the spring of thy youth, in the morning of thy days, when the eyes of man gaze on thee with delight, and nature whispereth in thy ear the meaning of their looks. All hear with caution their seducing words. Guide well thy heart, nor listen to thy persuasions. So basically talking to the woman. Understand what men, basically the circle 7 is for mothers and fathers, for the brotherhood and the sisterhood, for us to know ourselves and basically know our counterparts, our other half, our wives, our husbands, if she's a woman. He gave some high level science and metaphysical. It's just that. That's the reason why I keep stopping. There are multiple meanings. We deal with word, thoughts, and deeds. So remember, thou art made man responsible's companion. Not the slave of his. When he say thou art, he talk about God or the Creator. Made man's responsible companion, not the slave of his passion. The end of thy being is not merely to gratify his loose desires, but to assist him in the toils of life, to soothe his heart with thy tenderness, and recompense his care with soft endearments. And that's the one thing right there, that line right there, it made me really think, like, women do, they in these times they do that. They'll use sex, or where he put it, the light, uh, compassion over these things like this to compel the male to do something, even if it's against his own inclination. But they'll use that as a weapon, like you see, you ain't getting that tonight, like a punishment, or you would get some because of your birthday, a reward. So you see, that statement where he just finished, remember thou art made man's responsible companion. So that means man been made to be a companion to a woman, and this vice versa too. Say, not the slave of his passion, knowing the heaven that she is. He's telling her she shouldn't use that to enslave him, being that he is a reasonable companion. The end of thy being is not merely to gratify his loose desires, but to assist him in the toils of life, to soothe his heart with thy tenderness, and recompense his care with soft endearments. So use it wisely. Basically, he needed, but he needed properly, say, an equivalent return for anything given. Who is she that winneth the heart of man, that subdueth him to love, and reigneth in his breath? So that's basically a lot of brothers end up falling hard off these type of things. A lot of your sons can't take breakups and being cheated on and stuff like that, and they'll commit suicide and do some of the worst things because they lack these type of lessons. You should know as a youth that he can be subdued by love and reigned over. When he said in his breath, he's talking about reign in his breast, saying she got control of his heart. Right? The heart is in the breast. Lo, yonder she walketh in maid sweetness, with innocence in her mind, and modesty on her cheek. Her hand seeketh employment. Her foot delights not in gadding abroad. Now he's telling you how your true wife is. So he teaching her how to be the right path, and teaching him how to find a woman who walk the right path. And again, you can just equate that to being nobles or a queen. Even a queen would have to take these lessons to heart. Prince or king, a king or queen, just their lessons too now. That's divine right. Her hand seek employment, which means she look into work or do something or add on to the house. Her foot delights not in gathering abroad. Basically, she trying to get out the house, away from her family, away from her husband every day. She is clothed with neatness. We're going through those pictures. She is fed with temperance. Humility and meekness are as a crown of glory circling her head. And I feel like we're going through temperance, humility, and meekness, but those things you should go look up and get other meanings of, more modern type meanings. On her tongue dwelleth music. The sweetness of honey floweth from her lips. Decency is in all her words, and her answers are mildness and truth. Submission and obedience are the lessons of her life. So her science is learning how to serve her husband and her family better, right? Because she the husband of the king. She gotta learn certain things about the nation and stuff too. She the queen of the nation. So she also served the people. And she also the mother of the future king. If she had a son. And most of the time it'd be a child king, she running the kingdom as the regent. So her lessons of her life is submission and obedience. And peace and happiness is her reward. Before her steps walks prudence. A lot of these so metaphysical, it can be so many different meanings and different situations that you will see every day in your life. You'll see people who living like this and who ain't everywhere. And it ain't got nothing to do with people who, what they call themselves. Again, a lot of people who call themselves black, they still live like a lot of these lessons. And that's why I know what Ali say a lot of good morals still in the church, because he recognized that a lot of them still got some of the aspects of the ancient forefathers. Gonna recognize it. He said, and virtue attends at her right hand. Her eyes speak softness and love, but discretion with a scepter sits on her brow. Excuse me. The tongue of her licentious is dumb in her presence. The awe of her virtue keeps him silent. And again, I gotta tell you earlier, living these ways gonna keep a lot of stuff away from you. And an example of that, a lot of stuff disappeared out of my life when I started living like these principles and more. Like a force field. A lot of stuff gonna stay away from you. A lot of BS. And the R for virtue keeps him silent. Him meaning licentiousness. So you see, he using pronouns, personal pronouns for concepts. When your scandal is busy and the fame of her neighbors is tossed from tongue to tongue, of charity and good nature opens not her mouth, the finger of silence rests on her lips. So again, she ain't out gossiping about ignorance. Only charity and good nature will have her speaking. Not scandal and the fame of her neighbors. Her breast is the mansion of goodness, and therefore she suspects no evil of others. Basically, she's saying, that's saying, in her heart, her breast, and her heart, she strive to only do goodness. So she don't expect no evil to come to her. You only get what you put out. And that gonna be true for her. Happy with a man that makes her his wife. Happy the child that should call her mother. And he talking about the woman that he just finished explaining. This queen-like woman. She presides in the house, and there is peace. She presides. That means she got control of the household. She know these lessons and she keeping it intact. She got a job to do. And there is peace. She commands with judgment and is obeyed. So you see, earlier we were talking about submission or obedience. And I already can feel her eyes rolling. in these days from a woman, from our women, when they see these type of terms. But they, again, don't got true understanding of these things. They got to be put back in our schools. So, but then you see right here, she commanding, right? She commanding and is being obeyed and presiding. So that's what a queen really is. She got this understanding. When she ain't got this order and she got this understanding, she'll be out of order. She'll be trying to command, but she wouldn't be obeyed. She rise in the morning and consider her affairs, and appoints to everyone their proper business. And again, family is everybody in the household, including the servants. If you're on this level with it. Because he's talking to the Moors in their noble state. They've been in a bad state when he bring the signs back to them. But again, putting the crown on your head with this. The care of her family is her whole delight. To that alone she applies her studies. And basically she's studying on how to better control the household. Putting lessons in the household, all kind of different things. Cooking the best meals, making sure everybody's great. The sons, daughters, and the husband. Who outside, he presides in the nation, the community, in the Senate seat. The care of her family is her whole delight. To that alone she applies her study. And elegance with frugality is seen in her mansion. In her palace or mansion. Household. The prudence of her management is an honor to her husband. He hears her praise with a secret delight. I don't want to get too deep into that shit, so let's continue. She informs the mind of her children with wisdom. She fashions their manners from the examples of her own goodness. So the child, the mother's the first teacher. He looking into her mouth and eyes and ways and demeanors and every little thing while the child forming a synopsis in his brain. So it's the mother is the first teacher. So her, all that, the stuff that we just finished reading, all this is she set an example for the children also. The words of her mouth is the law of their youth. So basically, her word is the law. The motion of her eyes commands their obedience. She speaks and the servants fly. She points and that thing is done. For the law of love is in their hearts, and her kindness adds wings to their feet. Just depending now if she got her virtue and she got her lessons, that's her rewards. And this is like my grandmama. She ain't had to go nowhere. Any guys, I was sit on the porch with her every 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They would ask her, you want something, you need something from the store? Like the servants fly, because they understand she's a noble woman by her ways and the way she act and how she raised a household of 15 children. And the whole town, even to this day, so asking me if I her grandson. Old people of different races. And that's what they mean by that. She speaks, the servant flies, she points and that thing is done. Her goodness, because she would feed anybody in the neighborhood if they've been hungry. They had a plate at their house. So her ways and her goodness, her reward is these things. In prosperity, she is not puffed up. In adversity, she heals not the words of fortune with patience. She heals the wounds of fortune with patience. So these things that we gotta observe and keep in mind. In prosperity, she's not puffed up. She's stopping proudly upon the earth so that she may not see. And in adversity, she got patience. The troubles of her husband are alleviated by her counsels. Again, helping out the king when he seemed to have troubles, and sweetened by her endearments, and puts his heart in her bosom and receives comfort. Happy is the man that made her his wife, happy the child that calls her mother. Chapter 22, the duty of a husband. Take unto thyself a wife, and obey the ordinance of Allah. Take unto thyself a wife, and become a faithful member of society. But examine with care, and fix not suddenly. On thy present choice depends thy future happiness. Again, examine with care and don't marry too quick. Don't let the illusions of that beautiful flower cloud your judgment. And plus, if you got these lessons, you will know the noble woman. Again, she ain't gotta be following all these principles. You can help her out and teach her if she don't got these lessons. But you're gonna find women who got a lot of these qualities everywhere. Right? Me speaking to a Moorish American, you can find a woman in your nation. So, if much of her time is destroyed in dress and adornment, if she is enamored with her own beauty and delighted with her own praise, if she laughs much and talks loud, if her foot abides not in her father's house, and her eyes with boldness rove on the faces of man, though her beauty were as the sun of the fulfillment of heaven, turn thy face from her charms. And mothers definitely need to be making sure their sons be prepared for that, because that's one of the things that we see a lot. We see dudes getting captivated and don't even see the signs that they're being used or something like that. And they're captivated by beauty. Because, again, that beauty is like the sun in the fulfillment of heaven. So you turn thy feet from her paths, and suffer not thy soul to be ensnared by the allurements of imagination. And if you ask me, well, how would you know if she was the one you gotta walk away from? Again, he'll show you. If her time was destroyed in dress and adornment, if she's enamored with her own beauty and delighted with her own praise, you're going to easily find people who are delighted with their own praise. Just listen to people who I, me, I. Instead of we thinking about others here. A lot of people always are like this. So let's continue. But when thou findest sensibility of heart, joined with softness of manners, and accomplished mind, with the form agreeable to thy fancy. So he's saying you ain't gotta not take heed of the outside beauty where you fancy, but at least make sure she got some kind of sense or knowledge are some of these lessons that you want to know. When you know these lessons, you're going to know people, you're going to see people, and you're going to see qualities and character of people even better when you know about it. Take her home to thy house. She is worthy to be thy friend, thy companion in life, thy wife of thy bosom. Say, or cherish her as a blessing sent to thee from heaven. Let the kindness of thy behavior endear thee to her heart. And he's telling you, Martian Americans don't miss that blessing. Don't mess that up for yourself. Say, she is the mistress of thy house. Treat her therefore with respect, that thy servants may obey her. So you see, he's still talking to you as a noble. But basically he's telling you, if people see you disrespecting your own wife, you losing respect, and she gonna lose respect from people. Oppose not her inclination without cause. She is the partner of thy cares. Make her also the companion of thy pleasures. So learn to how to say this. Enjoy and learn to enjoy some of the same things together. Reprove her faults with gentleness. Exact not her obedience with rigor. So basically, you don't expect her to be obedient. Your ways and her ways is automatically going to give you that. And forcing that is not going to work. She only gonna be obedient to her king, and her king got special ways and certain ways about himself that she know, and she find in you. So she take delight in serving you. So trust thy secrets in her breast, and vice versa. You take delight in serving her. So trust thy secrets in her breast. Her counsels are sincere, and her counsel is metaphysically needed for the king, because she got an intuition that most men gotta cultivate and don't really got. Like a woman, man more on a logical expectation, and a woman more on how she feel, emotional expectation. But that can help plenty of times. Like something just don't feel right about that. Take heed of that, because she can see that better than men. Thou shalt not be deceived. Be faithful to her bed, for she is the mother of thy children. When pain and sickness assault her, let thy tenderness soothe her affliction. A look from thee of pity and love shall alleviate her grief, or instigate her pain, and be of more avail than 10 physicians. So that's all some people need sometimes, is certain looks. But again, make sure you keep all this in sincerity. That's why it's always good to always go over this over and over, especially if you're in a doubt. But as children, knowing these lessons, you walking in the right light. So Consider the tenderness of her sex, the delicacy of her frame, and be not severe to her weakness, but remember thy own imperfections. Chapter 23, the holy instruction for thy children. Consider thou art a parent, the importance of thy trust, the being thou hast produced. It is thy duty to support. So basically telling the children to understand the importance of the trust, and that it's a divine duty to always support the ones who gave you life, honor, respect. Upon thee also it depends whether the child of thy bosom be a blessing or a curse to thyself, and useful or worthless member to the community. So it could be one of the two. Prepare him early with instruction, him and her, and season his mind with the maxims of truth. And you can get lessons on maxims of truth. Add that to your family lessons. And I tell you about family and lessons and stuff too, because we think in different dimensions. We think in the future. We prepare stuff for the future as well as the present. Watch the bent of his inclination. Set him right in his youth. And let no evil habit gain strength with his years. I see that a lot too. We let our children, especially these days, be raised by entertainment, YouTube, and wherever other outside the household, outside that circle. And when they get a little older, start going to school, start being so-called bad, and start not being able to so-called learn certain things, and not because they don't got those habits, they don't got those wants, those loves, love for science, love for maths, those different ways, because you're not sit there and let somebody else raise them. So watch the bent of his inclinations, stuff that he inclined to do. Set him right in his youth, and let no evil habit gain strength with his years. So shall he rise like the cedar tree on the mountains. His head shall be seen above the trees of the forest. A wicked son is a reproach to his father, but he that does right is an honor to his gray hairs. So basically, what he's saying is stuff that we do in our later years fall backs on our parents and how we've been raised, obviously. That's why I like to say stuff like, who raised these people? Because that's what you always fall back on. So that's why you always teach your children when they're young. That's why that's the beginning of the holy lessons from the prophet. It's dealing with the family first. Then you can deal with the nation. And then the rest. Civilization. But you gotta take this thing by levels to this. This crown or this throne. So the soil is thy own. Let it not want cultivation. The seed which thou sow, that also shalt thou reap. Again, I just want to explain that you is cultivating the child. You make it, if you want that cedar tree to grow as the tallest tree in the forest, then you got to cultivate that tree as it grows. Because wherever you seed you plant is the seed you're going to sow. Teach him obedience. And all these words, use your Wiktionary in these parts. When he talk like this, teach him obedience, and he shall bless thee. Teach him modesty, and he should not be ashamed. And he talking about in the future throughout his life. When you teach these to the children at a very young age, they'll be smooth sailing, navigating through the earth plane, dealing with other people. Because most of the people ain't teaching their children these things. The ones that do, they probably call them Duke of something, or they ain't even them. A lot of that be outside show. But we ain't worrying about outside, we dealing with ourselves. Starting with the family. And again, this ain't no spooky stuff, it's simple stuff. Teach him obedience, and he shall bless you. Teach him modesty, and he shall not be ashamed. Teach him gratitude, and he shall receive benefits. Teach him charity, and he shall gain love. Teach him temperance, and he shall have health. Teach him prudence, and fortune shall attain him. And again, take these words: prudence, gratitude, obedience, temperance. Make a page, temperance, and start writing down a lot of quotes, all wisdom from all the prophets, all the proverbs in that subject. And know some things you can recite to the children. Make sure they got understanding of these proverbs, these maxims at a very young age, man. I'm telling you, you'll be creating somebody who walk around with a halo on around the head for real. Teach him justice, and he shall be honored by the world. Teach him sincerity, and his own heart shall not reproach him. Teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. And again, the mother, this basically for her. At this point, the husband dealing with community, government, state business. She in the household, so she got to make sure the young prince and the young princesses got this. When the young prince grow up and go to the father, he gonna get training in running the government, the detailed stuff, the logical stuff. That's the unseen stuff: obedience, gratitude, temperance. These are stuff that is not tangible objects. So we got divine and national. Teach him diligence, and his wealth shall increase. Teach him benevolence, and his mind shall be exalted. Teach him science, and his life shall be useful. Teach him religion, and his death shall be happy. And at the end of the book, he get into what to teach in these different diligence and justice and religion, what those things mean to us as Moorish Americans. The obedience of children towards their father. From the secrets of Allah, let man learn wisdom. Hold on. From the secrets of Allah, let man learn wisdom, and apply to him the instruction they give. Go to the desert, my son, observe the young stork of the wilderness. Let him speak to thy heart. He bears on his wing his aged sire. He lodges him in safety and supplies him with food. So basically, he telling his son to observe nature, because that's how Allah speak. Speak through nature, speak through man voice, speak through anything that gives you something you can use and good. And in that example, he showed you how the stork taking care of the older stork, his father, the young stork, lodging in safety and supplying food to his father at his elder age. The piety of a child is sweeter than the incense of Persia offering to the sun. More delicious than orders wasted from a field of Arabian spices of the western gales. And basically, he using these grandiose things like the sun, so you wouldn't be starstruck. Because Rome got a lot of things that they'll starstruck you over. All kind of trinkets that we put over man, these small principles. So he's telling you, these are the things that we need to be starstruck over. Be grateful to thy father, for he gave thee life, and to thy mother, for she sustained thee. Again, you plant the seed, she nurtured the tree. Hear the words of his mouth, for thy are spoken for thy good. Give ear to his admonitions, for it proceeds from love. And that's what child should know at a very young age, that father telling you not do something, most likely it's for your own good and it's out of love. He has watched for thy welfare, he has toiled for thy ease. Do honor therefore to his age, and let not his gray hairs be treated with irreverence. Forget not thy helpless infancy, nor the forwardness of thy youth, and indulge the infirmities of thy aged parents. Assist and support them in the decline of life. And it basically is a cycle. The parents take care of the child as a baby and give them the same respect. So shall their hoary heads go down to the grave in peace, and thy own children, in reverence of thy example, shall repay thy piety with filial love. So by you following these lessons with your own parents, your children going to get a good example of how to treat you when you get old. But again, if you give them a bad example, don't be an old grumpy person crying that your children don't love you or whatever. You set the example at the beginning. So we're going to read the Covenant of the Asiatic Nations. We're going to put a stop to this part 1 of Nobility. Chapter 25. The Holy Covenant of the Asiatic Nation. Ye are the children of one father. I'm talking to the millions and millions of so-called black people, because he tell y'all ain't Negroes, black in color, or African American, or Ethiopia, or Indian, or any new word they may come up with tomorrow. Ye are Moors, and you got a crown on. You just can't see it. But that's who he talking to when he said the Asiatic nation, which is the name of the ancient Moorish Empire, the Canaanite kingdoms and stuff like that. Christian Egyptology and different sciences understand what that is. Not Asiatic. Talking about an ancient term. Ye are the children of one father, provided by his care, and the breast of one mother had given you suck. So that's one thing we need to know. As a nation, we got a national father and mother. Even if it's metaphysical, we need to understand this to purport to even be a nation and be a healthy one. These are the lessons we need. So let the bond of affection therefore unite thee with thy brothers, that peace and happiness may dwell in thy father's house, which is the country. And when you separate in the world, remember the relations that bind you to love and unity, and prefer not a stranger before thy own blood. One of the most broken rules I see us into these days. regardless of what we call ourselves, and even in the community of us who call ourselves Moorish Americans, I be wondering if they even be reading Circle 7. I know it ain't an easy read. It's all English, but these are the type of things we looking for into a Moorish American, because if you want to, so you find this information, you just find my video and say, oh yeah, I understand that makes sense. Can't be a black. That's a color. Them people call themselves Asians, they ain't calling themselves yellow. So you get that part. But again, from where I come from, a lot of things that I had to change in my ways, in my mind, word, action, and deeds. Don't just keep the same old way and coming to this, because there could be a lot of morals who want to excommunicate you, send you right back to the state that you've been in, the black state. But again, never put a stranger before thy own blood. So, as Moorish Americans, anybody else who not calling themselves that ain't matter, they call themselves black, African American, white, Chinese, it don't matter who. Two Moorish Americans should never put nobody else over themselves, over each other. That's a violation of chapter 25:3. If thy brother is an adversary, assist him. If thy sister is in trouble, forsake her not. You see, the brotherhoods and the sisterhoods. We should always have brotherhood and sisterhoods. You see the Nation of Islam using that. They use that. They already got them, the brothers and the sisters. On one side, you have the brothers on that side and the sisters on that side. They're using aspects of this. But as a Moors, you can go back to those three. You see, we have brotherhoods and sisterhoods. He trying to get us back to that. We're using wrong one, and that's a horrible thing, because those people ain't connected with the rest of their nation. They don't even know who the hell they is or what their nation is. All got mixed spirits and some lessons and Muslim some and all kind of shit. But if we got our own brotherhoods and sisterhoods, the brotherhood gonna make sure the rest of the brothers straight, fellowshipping, make sure our minds right, and the sisterhood's gonna do the same. So you wouldn't have what we see today, men telling women how to be women, better wives and stuff like that, and vice versa. The confusion. So shall the fortune of thy father contribute to the support of the whole race, and his care be continued to you all, and your love to each other. And if we want to grow and have a golden age, all we gotta do is follow these lessons. The more of us who do, the quicker we bullet it, and the more the ones around us, they don't. That's the one thing, man, don't never want to be. That's why I wrong like using that punishment, canceling it. Nobody don't want to be excommunicated from the people who they hold dear to. And that's why you might hear more saying, stuff like, this person might be a Moor, but he's a dirty Moor, or such and such as that. Try to qualify it because they feel the person was representing our nation and our national body and not our ancestors. So I'll start right there, and we'll continue the next one. Peace in Islam.